Hey guys, Urban Combat Survivor here again. My last video, I strayed away a little bit from the strict urban survival thing, and because I think it's important that people change their mindset slightly and learn how to critically think and connect dots for themselves. This one, I'm going to go back towards the theme here. This most of my information is pretty much useful to anybody, in my opinion. But what I'm trying to concentrate on is things that I think aren't addressed in a lot of places out there, and things that I think are particularly useful to those trying to survive in a populated area. So, what I want to talk about today is defensible zones, defensibility of structures. Actually, I'm going to save the zones for another video. But those zones start with a structure. Think about the structure that you're going to be defending or trying to defend. I've talked before about the importance of finding like-minded individuals that you trust and making a plan to meet up. I also said that I don't think that's going to be possible for the first week or two. Possibly 3, possibly 4 weeks. You don't know how long the crazy riots are going to be going on out there, and it's best to wait until those somewhat settle down before trying to run off. So, particularly since what I'm going to be talking about is going to require you to be actually moving a lot of your survival stuff, your food, your weapons, bedding, that kind of thing. What I've done is I've gone and looked around my area, my neighborhood, and adjacent neighborhoods, particularly ones that are in the direction of people that I've spoken to already about meeting up. So between me and them, and what I've done is I've started looking for buildings that will meet a certain set of criteria that I've set in my head. The set of criteria that I have is, number one, how defensible is the building? Buildings that are made of stone, cinder block, things like libraries, warehouses, factories, playgrounds, churches, those kind of buildings generally are going to be better at withstanding things like mobs throwing Molotov cocktails. They're also going to take weapon fire a lot better than a house is going to. Remember, anytime you see anything about weapons for defending your home, one of the first things everybody talks about is making sure that you're mindful of penetration of your walls. Well, what that tells you is not only do you have to worry about that from the inside, you have to worry about what's coming in from the outside. I live in Philadelphia, and all the time you hear about some stray gunshot coming through a window or through a wall and killing some kid. So homes, even older homes that are made of brick, probably aren't your best. They'll do, but they're probably not your best choice. So what I've done is, in my head, I've looked for buildings that they have less entrances and exits so that they're more easily defended and secured. I tried to pick buildings that were a size that I thought the amount of people that I believe I'm going to have with me can defend it and have enough room to be there without it being too big and undefensible. If you have a big sprawling building and you don't have enough people to cover it, basically you just put yourself in a really insecure situation. So some of the buildings I'm most fond of are municipal buildings like libraries. They don't have many windows, they don't have many entrances or exits, but they're solidly built, at least here in Philadelphia. They're solidly built. Churches, there's 2 churches in my relatively immediate area that don't have a congregation anymore. Those are solid buildings made of stone that don't have many entrances. So they're also small enough that both of the churches I'm talking about are small enough that I believe I could defend them while still having plenty of room for people inside. The thing you want to think about beyond the building structure itself, the physical attributes of the building itself, is how defensible that building is in a tactical light. One of the buildings that I found that I thought was really great, the building itself that I thought was really great, but I disqualified it as a place to go, was a little clubhouse on a football field. It was at one end of the football field, and that would have been great on one side because you could see anybody approaching for a long distance. But the other side, the back of that building, was on a very small street, and there were two alleyways and an intersection, and the houses weren't fully connected. It weren't row houses, so there were pathways between the homes. So 25 guys could have showed up and been within 50 feet of that building before you even knew they were there. So I disqualified that building because of the approaches. So pick your building for the building's attributes itself, but also the immediate area around that building. And then start walking your ranges out. Pace. Stand at all the places, the entrances, and all the places that you think you're going to probably be posting any kind of guard. And pace. Pace to the areas that people could possibly come from. If it takes you, if it takes you, a 5-minute walk, you're going to walk out all the little distances there. Write them down. Put them in your phone because, your phone isn't going to have service, but the memo pad in it's probably still going to work. Write them down. Put them in your wallet. Put them in your purse. Put them in your bug-out bag. Put them wherever. Get these ranges and discuss them with friends that you're planning on meeting there. Another good thing about things like libraries and churches, recreational centers, again, they have very few windows for people to throw Molotov cocktails through. They're solidly built, so you're less likely to worry about small weapons fire like AKs and rifles and that kind of things coming through the walls. They also generally have larger grass areas if it comes down longer term for you growing food. That's something you want to consider as well. Think about your lines of sight, not only your lines of sight to intersections, but think about occlusions. I talked about this in one of my other videos briefly. If there are trees between A and B, you need to not only realize that the tree is there, and in the wintertime you're going to be able to see, but in the summer when that's all green, it's going to be blocking things. So you need to consider, okay, am I going to have to take this tree out if I take this place, and how am I going to do that? So lots of things to consider, but make a list of criteria, whatever criteria you think works for you. For me, it was the defensibility of the building, the size of the building being within range that I felt I could defend it and still have enough room, the lines of sight from that building, and something I'll talk about in a later video is defensive zones. Being able to extend a defensive zone immediately around that building at first, but then later the possibility of extending my defensive zone a little further, as for instance maybe more people show up, or whatever the case may be. The possibility of extending that defensive zone a little bit further out, extending that perimeter a little bit further out. So look around your neighborhood. A great tool for this is Google Earth. I used that, and when I saw buildings that struck me in one way or another, what I did is went to Google Earth, and I brought up a satellite image of those buildings, and then that was a perspective that I wasn't able to have from on the ground, seeing tactically around that building how things are. So think about where you're going to go. You probably don't want to leave your home, but your home isn't going to be the best long-term plan in my opinion. Fortunately, in cities, there are usually a lot of old stone defensible buildings that you're not going to be displacing any people out of if you go take it. So think about it, and if you come up with any ideas, any criteria for these buildings that I haven't mentioned here, drop a comment down there at the bottom of the video, and I'll respond to you, or let you know why I didn't include it, or maybe include it in the next video if I hadn't thought of it or forgot to mention it. Urban Combat Survivor, signing off.